Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. So glad you could join us today because we have a very timely topic. We have Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance, the McPherson Agency, coming on the show here in a little bit. And we're going to talk about fire. We're going to talk about the fires going on in California. We're going to talk about what's going on in Oregon. And as luck would have it, the state of Oregon sent out a letter this week updating folks on the fire map. You remember that. So Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance, the McPherson Agency, will be coming on and talking to us about all of that fire stuff. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Megan to step in, let's go over our local statistics like we do every week. Jackson, Josephine, and Klamath County updates. Jackson County prices year over year are up 19% this week. The average residential home costing $520,269 in the residential market. The number of solds year over year in Jackson County were down this week, 17%. There were only 24 closings on SOMLS in Jackson County's residential market. The number of listings year over year were up 3% in Jackson County this week. There were 641 active listings on SOMLS in Jackson County's residential market. Josephine County prices year over year were down 22% this week. The average residential in Josephine County costing $358,325. The number of sold year over year in Josephine County this week were down a whopping 60%, 60. There were only 6 closings on SOMLS in Josephine County this week in the residential market. The number of listings year over year were up 11% in Josephine County. There were 322 active listings on SOMLS in Josephine County this week. Klamath County prices were up year over year 23% this week. The average Klamath residential costing $308,127. The number of sold year over year in Klamath County this week were down 15%. There were only 11 closings on SOMLS in the residential market, Klamath County this week. The number of listings in Klamath County were up 34% year over year this week. There were 292 active listings on Klamath County's residential in SOMLS this week. So folks, you can see we have a lot of listings. A lot of them are sitting because of price and also the high interest rates. But we have enough listings coming this spring. We might be able to fill the need for all the buyers, but we'll see. We check these listings numbers and also prices every week in all 3 counties, so that you can be good consumers and have all the data you need to make the best decision for your family. Let's welcome Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance, the McPherson Agency. She's here to talk to us about fire insurance and what's going on in Oregon with the fire map. We've got an update for you on that. And also to talk about what's going on in California, the terrible tragedy at the fires down there, and how it may or may not affect the laws and the fire practices here in Southern Oregon in the near future. We're all waiting to see what is going to happen with that. Well, welcome back, Megan. We are so excited to have you back on the Real Estate Show this time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back, Alice.
So lots and lots of conversation going on these days about fire. And we were talking just before this segment, you have some personal experiences as well. But how would you like to start now to bring our listeners up to speed?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there is a lot of talk right now about fire maps and fire risk and can our house get insurance and will we be able to sell our house someday and all the questions that are floating around. I think a handful of us here in Southern Oregon have really close and personal experience with what does this mean for me and my property now. And from the insurance standpoint, my absolute first comment is no agent, no insurance agent no realtor, none of us know exactly what this is going to mean or look like a year from now. I would love to come on here and say I'm the smartest person you've ever talked to, and this is exactly what it's going to look like. But we don't have those answers. There's still so much changing on the state level and the county level, and so many decisions and so much review that still has to be done. Insurance companies have no way of knowing what this trajectory is going to look like a year from now. So from an agent and from really advice that I can give my clients and advice that I can give your listeners is, and it's bad, but we don't know what a year from now looks like. So do the best you can to keep your property up to good quality, good condition, take care of it, make smart choices. When it comes to your insurance, if you've got options right now to insure your property well, if you've got good endorsements that you can add on, if you can get a good carrier right now, take those options today. We don't know a year from now what that looks like. We don't know if properties in a certain area are going to be able to get the same coverage as properties in another area. Those are far above most of our abilities and anything that we can directly control. So if you have the option today to protect your house, do so.
So for those who aren't quite knowing what we're talking about, can you backtrack just a little bit?
Yeah.
Because it's been a while since we've talked about what's going on with the fire situation in Oregon.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of talk. The wildfire risk map came out, I think 2021 is originally when it got proposed and
That
really
was a
started.
while ago.
It was, yeah, it was shortly after the Almeda fires. And so it kind of started to get that ball rolling. And there has been all sorts of conversation, some of it true, some of it hearsay, that this wildfire risk map has come out and it has directly impacted my ability to get insurance. That's not true. As an insurance producer, we have been told specifically that is not true. That map has not affected your ability to get insurance yet. It cannot be used yet. What can be done is insurance companies have the right and the ability to use their own determination factors. There's fire protection class, there is fire line score, there's a ton of behind the scenes factors. Some of them we as insurance producers have access to, some of them is completely behind the scenes black box. We don't know what they are. They just get pre-filled into our systems, whatever companies we rate with. Those factors can be used in determining insurance and eligibility for your home. So
Interesting.
while the map itself, which is really kind of more what we're talking about and what has been the latest concern for a lot of homeowners, especially here in Southern Oregon, is no, your insurance is not being directly impacted by that map. It's not being impacted at all by that map currently. However, insurance companies do have the ability and they have the legal right to use other factors, which, to be quite honest, other, insurance companies are now looking at all the factors they possibly can. So whereas 5 years ago, or, in 2021, which was eerily right when that map came out, people are saying, well, in 2021, I was able to get insurance and I didn't have any issues. And fast forward to 2025, I can't get insurance, or it's gone up 3 times. You're correct. It probably has. It's not the map, but the companies are able to look at other factors. And that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now, where companies have looked at, a handful of behind the scenes factors for years and years, as long as they possibly could. But now they're looking at it more rigorously. They're maybe putting more parameters around, okay, you're in a higher protection class or you're in a higher fire line score. 5 years ago, we would accept this. Today, we're going to be a lot more restrictive on what it is that we'll accept.
So it really comes down to ongoing risk assessment. And in our society lately, we've had more predictive analytic information be able to be purchased by big companies. And I know we didn't talk about this ahead of time as a question, but as you're talking, I'm just wondering how much of that ongoing data gathering, because you work for a big company, Farmers Insurance, which is great. It's absolutely fabulous company. But do you know, are they looking into those data analytics and using them?
So being an agent, being an agency owner, I don't have access to a lot of that knowledge, those answers. My personal opinion and guess is absolutely, if there is information out there, we'll kind of go down a rabbit hole for just a second and get back on track, but we look at auto insurance premiums. A majority of companies are going to pull DMV records. We're going to pull household records, right? There's going to be information that the company legally can pull in order to make sure that we are rating and
About your life practices.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Do you have other people living in your house that you didn't tell us about? That's going to come back on a report. So companies as a whole, insurance side, but my opinion is we absolutely can.
Yeah. It's just a fascinating time, right?
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is.
We're talking to Megan McPherson of the McPherson Agent Farmers Insurance, one of our favorite people. And we're talking about fire risk, doing an update on the state of Oregon. And in the minute we have before we go to break, how much impact are the California fires having on what's going on up here in Oregon and the practice?
You know, I don't believe that there's been a big impact yet. I think that there absolutely will be. I mean, in 2023, there was over $630 billion paid out in insurance claims nationwide.
Wow.
That is absolutely something that is going to impact everybody to some extent. And when we get back from the break, I would absolutely love to go down that just a little bit further because there's a lot of information behind it. And I think that whether we like the answers or not, having that knowledge is really powerful.
Yeah, dealing with reality. And Southern Oregonians take bad news well, as
Yep.
long as we
Yep.
know that it's truthful, and then we can do something about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're talking to Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance, the McPherson agency here locally. We want to say thank you to our sponsors, Guy Giles Mutual Mortgage, John L. Scott, Ashland and Medford, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We'll be right back after a quick word. Don't go away. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema. I'm a broker here in beautiful Southern Oregon with John L. Scott Real Estate. And we are so lucky to have Megan McPherson of the McPherson Agency of Farmers Insurance on the show today, talking about fire insurance, getting us up to speed on what's going on in California, how it affects us or not up here, and getting an update on the Oregon wildfire map, because that's been all over. I want to say all over the map, but we've had a lot of confusion about that. But before the break, we were talking about California.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me back. So, kind of to touch back on what we ended the session with. In 2023, there were over $630 billion paid out in insurance claims nationwide. So, how insurers have to look at wildfires and how they have to look at natural disasters and how each company has to choose to rate, and rating all comes down to what we pay in home insurance premiums, right? So companies have to look at that information and then they make decisions based upon that. And sometimes that decision is they raise your insurance premium. Sometimes it means they get a lot more restrictive on what areas that they will write in. Sometimes it means we'll insure you, but maybe all of a sudden we're going to take away some endorsements that you've been used to getting or being able to purchase. And this is insurance as a whole. This isn't even just farmers insurance, right? This is how the companies are having to respond to nationwide astronomic amounts that have been paid out due to claims, right? The last couple of years has been really tricky nationwide for claims and for natural disasters. And today we're talking about fires in our specific area. So when we look big picture at insurance companies and kind of how they work, most standard insurance companies have reinsurers. Reinsurers can be nations and countries wide. So reinsurers play a really important role in most standard companies. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but standard companies are kind of the big names that most of us recognize, right? Farmers, State Farm, Allstate, Safeco. There's plenty more than that are standard carriers. The non-standard carriers, those are really, they're surplus lines. They're the companies who take a property that maybe has a lot of condition concerns or maybe is in the middle of nowhere and no other company will write insurance for them. But when we're looking at standard carriers, they almost all have reinsurers. You can find it online what your company does or doesn't have. It's not a make or break. But what a reinsurer is, they in essence are they're put in place so that the insurance company has someone else insuring them. So if there are catastrophic
Ah,
losses, yep. So if they are catastrophic losses, and I'm actually going to read off a little blurb just exactly what it does.
yeah, yeah, please do.
Reinsurance is a financial tool that helps insurance companies and public entities manage risk and protect against large losses. Reinsurance companies cover a portion of losses from catastrophic events, allowing insurance companies to pay claims without borrowing money. The importance of this to me, and the importance of it really to all of us who have to worry about home insurance or what our rental property insurance is going to be, is that it's not just our insurance company needing to raise our premiums or needing to reevaluate if our house is eligible anymore. Those companies have reinsurers coming in and saying, these are our numbers, these are our losses. We need you as a company to do XYZ in order for us to continue reinsuring you. And if companies lose their reinsurance, they can lose their A&M best ratings. So standard companies are given an A&M best rating. You can go online, you can find companies A&M best ratings. If you lose your reinsurer and you lose your rating, suddenly you're not looked at as good of a company. You're not given that same standard company segment that's really important to insurance companies. And most of us don't have to think about this every day, and I wouldn't ask you to, but it really does matter to all of us in some aspect. So when we talk about what will the California fires do to us and what's insurance going to look like a year from now, we don't know, but it's not just our company having to look at it. It's our company, it's their reinsurers, it's their boards, etc.
So in California, there's been a lot of reporting that people don't have insurance and that demographically some or a portion of the folks affected by the fire were affluent. I don't know if any of that's true, but the fact that they don't have insurance, is that true? Have we been able to find out about that?
So some of it's speculation, some of it can be addressed pretty specifically. There have definitely been challenges in California for people to obtain insurance, and that has been going on for the last several years.
Yeah, we've been hearing about it for a while.
Yeah, so that's for a fact. There are people who have been struggling. There are different options. I am not licensed in California. I do not write business in California. So all of my experience, all of my information is research that I've done purely on my own. I have spoken with other agents down there, but it's all personal research.
Really? You
Mhm,
talked
yeah.
to somebody? Yeah.
Yeah.
What did they say? How's it going?
Um, you know, it's kind of a mess, right? Like in total honesty, which is what we're here for, it's hard. There are a lot of challenges affecting the insurance industry. There are a lot of challenges affecting clients and the people trying to get insurance. And how they have to handle it may be different than how Oregon has to handle their issues, right? But it
Hmm.
all comes back to the root issue of insurers have to be able to pay out claims.
Hmm.
And, you know, here in Oregon, I'm just going to go back to Oregon and kind of address that for a
Yeah,
minute.
because Oregon has different laws, right?
Oregon has different laws and rules. So like in California, you can't use credit-based rating at all. Oregon, every insurance company is going to use credit-based rating. So there are differences in state law and insurance law and regulation that directly impact companies, insurance companies' abilities to do work within the state.
Hmm. So,
Um,
so how does it work in Oregon? Because I remember you saying, or maybe you could tell me if this is true, that in Oregon you have to have insurance. It's not like California where it's optional to be self-insured.
you
Is that
know,
true?
No, it is actually still an option in Oregon to be self-insured on certain types of business. So if you don't have a mortgage on your house, you can be self-insured. If you don't have, if you don't choose to have life insurance, you can self-insure your life.
Gotcha.
Auto insurance is a little bit different there. There are scenarios and reasons I believe that they will still allow you to self-insure on auto, but the majority of us will not fall into that box.
Yeah.
Um, there
Yeah.
are there are options. I absolutely would not suggest that you self-insure your home. There are people, if you've paid off your mortgage and you have plenty of money in the bank, or you feel like you have plenty of money, you have the option to self-insure. But the cost to rebuild your home 2 years ago compared to what it could cost 5 years from now if it burns could be night and day difference. And
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
the
and it's
best
the
of us,
unknown too.
exactly, exactly. And the best of us don't really truly know what it's going to cost to rebuild a house 5 years from now.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother side to that that's a little off topic, but liability protection. Somebody falls and breaks something
Yeah.
on your property and
Yeah.
you're self-insured, you've left yourself wide open. So even if you don't really care about the house itself, because maybe you've got other homes, or maybe, if your house burnt, you just go live in an apartment somewhere because that's where you've decided you're at in life. That's fine. But somebody falls and really gets injured at your property, you've now opened yourself wide up. So
That's a good point, because you don't always know when somebody's going to be over, because we've had situations where uninvited neighbors have been on your property and something happened and you didn't even know. And
yep.
yeah, and then your homeowners was responsible.
Exactly. There's a lot of reasons why I think if you can get insurance, it's important to still have it. But self-insurance is an option at times, depending on the situation.
So for the wildfire situation and people living in the rural districts, what are the requirements now on the insurance company side? Are they required in Oregon to provide insurance?
Help me out just a little bit with that question
Well,
again.
just like, because you're hearing stories in California that people, the insurance companies are not giving people the possibility of coverage. Is that the same case in Oregon?
Got it. There are certainly some companies who are choosing not to write business in certain
Are
areas.
there?
So again, it's not because of the wildfire map, but there are certainly plenty of other factors that come into that decision that the company has made. And so the companies, historically, there are underwriting questions. So if I go to write a house for you, I'm going to ask you a certain set of questions. Those questions may have changed over time. They may be a lot more intrusive in some people's opinion now, but we go through underwriting questions just like we did when your policy was first written. The underwriting process can change, and it's at the company's discretion. So there are going to be there's a potential of more questions now. There's going to be a potential of um, better conditions. Not to say that a house isn't even in good shape, but maybe we need the roof replaced every so many years, or maybe we need to see that there's absolutely no condition concerns. Those are the factors that we are going to see here, and I think we're going to see those a lot. They're going to be looked at a lot more than they have been in the past, where you may be able to get coverage, but there's going to be a lot more of a process to get there.
Well,
It,
that's really interesting. Yeah, more questions. How old is your roof? How
Mhm.
old is your siding?
Yep. So it's not to say that it's impossible to get insurance in all areas of Southern Oregon, but it's possible that you're going to be asked more questions. It's possible that there's going to be more of a process.
Well, good to know. We're talking to Megan McPherson, Farmers Insurance and McPherson Agency. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Do not go away. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. Just a reminder, this episode with Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance is going to be repeated again tomorrow, Sunday at 8 a.m. You can hear all the good advice and all the interesting topics from Megan McPherson of the McPherson Agency again on this station tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you, Megan, for coming back on the show. What a timely topic.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back. It's there's a lot around it right now.
Yeah. So going back and forth between the fire insurance issue between Oregon and California, because they are different. But you have been in touch with some insurance people down in California, and you have something to say about what's going on with them?
Yeah, so again, I'm not licensed in California. This is not personal experience. This is just my personal research and reaching out to other agents and reading the articles and kind of keeping an eye on what's happening in California. One of the big concerns and biggest things we're hearing on the radio and the news right now are people who have lost their homes in the most recent fires, and it's devastating. The fires down there just break my heart to look at. And I've got a family, I've got kids. Southern Oregon's my home. To a lot of people, the house that they just lost in California, that's their home. That's where they've raised their babies. So it's heartbreaking to look at everything that's happened down there. And you listen to a lot of the stories, and a lot of concern comes around people who the fires have broke out and they just lost their insurance coverage. And they are now saying, wait a second, we've had a fire and now my insurance company is canceling me.
Wow.
And it sounds terrible, but there are legal requirements insurance companies have to give before canceling a policy. Now, I'm not going to speak directly to what California's rules and regulations are. I'm not licensed there. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, and it's different.
It's different between Oregon and California. But as a whole, insurance companies have to give so many days notice, and that is state dependent, but has to give so many days notice before they can cancel a policy. They have to give a reason, right? It doesn't have to be a reason that we like, but they have to give a reason for cancellation. And it doesn't just happen overnight. So, kind of going back to Oregon now, the same thing happens here. There are going to be plenty of properties who are going to start having issues finding insurance coverage. They may be able to find it, it may be incredibly expensive, or it may not give all the options they want, or all of the above. There are going to be people who, unfortunately, not because of the fire map, but because of other factors that are going to be used by insurance companies and already are, there are going to be people who lose their insurance. They are getting non-renewed. They are getting cancellations. They are going to be receiving notice. And if you're concerned about your property and your house, make sure with your insurance agent that you have your address updated, that if you have issues getting your mail, that you have gone on paperless. Make sure that you are watching for these things, because insurance companies here in Oregon have to give some sort of notice. They have to give so many days notice. It may not be, months and months and months of time, but there's going to be enough notice that it may not be convenient, but you can start looking for something else. And
You'll
so
have time to react.
you'll have time to react. It may not be as much time as you want, and the options you may find may not be great, but you are going to have some notice. And so it's heartbreaking to hear people say, I just lost my insurance overnight. I had no idea, and now I have nothing. But professionally and honestly, I have to say that's not going to be the case. So be as proactive as you can to make sure that you have all your insurance information, or your information updated with your insurance agent, that you've, if you have issues with your mail, that you start signing up for paperless, that you do things so that if you're in a location where you do start to have some challenges, you are going to be notified by the company. Put yourself in a place where you're getting that information from them. They do have to give some sort of notice. People are getting notice.
So, can you just call your insurance agent and ask for a review? I don't know what you call it in the insurance world, but
Absolutely. So at my agency, we offer reviews all the time, and we ask people reach out to us directly to request that. Um, I love my clients. My agency loves our clients. There's only so many hours in a day. And so if we haven't proactively reached out to you like we would like to do, call us. Make sure that you get on our list so that we can help address that. Most agencies here in Southern Oregon are great about doing that, whether they proactively offer them or not. Most agents here are phenomenal about wanting to sit down with their clients. As professionals, we all want to retain our clients. We want to retain, all the people that we get to work with. Reach out to your agent, ask for that review. There may be some questions that I have clients ask me and I don't have the answer to. That's fine. Let's start the conversation. Let me address the things that I can address. And we know when your renewal date is. We can have conversations so that you're in the best place possible for today.
And what would a review entail? Like if I call you up and I say I'm wigged out about all this fire stuff, let's go over all of my policies. What do you do at that point?
Absolutely. So for my agency, there's going to be a couple of things we'll be looking at. When did your policy renew? If you just renewed today, we're probably not going to talk very much or very long about what's going to happen next renewal a year from now, because I don't have those answers. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole that I can't give you an answer to. But
Yeah.
what you might look at is, hey, your policy renewed. This is fantastic. I'm genuinely happy to see that you're going to be able to stay with this company and that we haven't non-renewed, that we don't have any concerns this year. Let's go a step deeper. Now let's look at the coverage options that you do have. Do we have you insured to value? The
What does
cost.
that mean? I hear that a lot.
Yeah, yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So insured to value is, do we have enough? Have we insured your home for enough to be able to rebuild it to like similar kind and quality if something happens? So most standard companies there will use one of two main cost estimator companies, is what we call them. We plug in information, right? We may look at Zillow, we may look at Jackson County property data, or whatever county you're in. We're going to talk to you. Do you have granite counters, or do you have solid surface counters, right? We put in all those details that help us determine this is what we think it would take the company to rebuild your house. Usually it's very different from the sale price, right? You know all about what the sale price comes up with. It's usually going to be a different number because from the insurance side, we're not looking at location, we're not looking at view, we're not looking at a lot of the things that might help us sell it for more. But we're going to be looking at what do we think it costs to rebuild this home. And so that's one of my biggest concerns with my clients is, okay, great, we're able to keep your policy. We don't want, we're happy that it hasn't been non-renewed. We're happy that we still have it. Now let's make sure that we still have you insured to value enough. You did a $15,000 remodel in your house. We need to know about that. We need to make sure that we have enough coverage to account for what you've just changed. Those are the big points that I start to go over. And then we're going to look at things like maybe you got a big raise at work, or maybe you worked for somebody and now you've become self-employed. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further. Do we have high enough liability protection? Because you
What
own a
is that?
business.
I'm sorry.
Liability. No, don't be sorry. Liability. If somebody breaks their neck on your property,
Oh,
or
okay, that kind of
your
liability.
dog bites somebody, yep. Do we have enough protection? Because maybe you're making more money. So there's a greater chance that if something happens,
I see.
you've got
Yeah,
more money
that's
to
what you
lose.
mean. Yeah, okay.
Right. And then maybe we go a little bit further and do we have life insurance for you? Do we have enough life insurance? You just had a baby or you just got married. So you want, in my agency, our goal of reviews is to make sure that when we get that opportunity to sit down with our clients, we are addressing all of the concerns and issues. And sometimes I have a concern that's different from what my client has. And so our conversation turns a little bit longer because their concern is valuable. My concern is valid. And so it gives us an opportunity to really make sure that as an agency, we're protecting your entire household and not just one or two items, right? We kind of joke that we're not Burger King. We're not order takers. We want to have a relationship. Like our goal is to have a relationship with you. And so I know I'm not the only agent here in Southern Oregon who has that view. I like to think I'm the best, but there's lots of great agents there. Talk to your agent. Most likely they want to have that same relational conversation with you.
Yeah, that's funny. You're not Burger King.
We're not Burger King, we're not order takers.
Not order takers. We're talking to Megan, excuse me, Megan McPherson of Farmers Insurance, the McPherson agency here in Southern Oregon, going over the fires in California and also what that means to Southern Oregonians. So the fire map has been really, quite frankly, a cluster. They came out and hadn't had any information, any input from the insurance industry years ago. And where does that fire map stand now here in 2025?
So it has been sent out. Many of us, I think, are just receiving our notices stating this is the level that you've fallen in, right? You're either low, high, or low, moderate, or high. It's still not being usable for insurance purposes. That's kind of where it's
Oh,
staying at.
really?
Yeah, insurance still can't use it. So right now, it's not affecting our industry in that sense, but there are other factors insurance companies look at. So it's not going to be unheard of that you're going to get your map and either receive an increase or receive a non-renewal, and they're going to seem a little bit coincidental. They're really not, but it is back out there. So I know that there are hearings on it still. There are conversations being had on the map still. There's still a lot behind it. Currently, it's not affecting insurance. We don't know what the future looks like for that.
Well, we're going to have to take a quick break again, but we're going to talk more with Megan McPherson of the McPherson Agency, Farmers Insurance, about what's going on with our own Oregon fire map. And apparently the insurance companies cannot use it yet. What do you know?
It's correct.
Well, hey, Southern Oregon, welcome back to the Real Estate Show. We have a lively conversation going on with Megan McPherson, the McPherson Agency, Farmers Insurance. And right before the break, we were just talking about the Oregon fire map and how it's not really very far along, which I'm sorry, I find that funny, but it's been years.
Yeah, no, I believe 2021 is when it got proposed and first came out, and it does appear that it's back. I know we were talking off the air, but I actually got my own letter this past evening. And
Wow.
I believe a lot of people in Southern Oregon are going to be getting theirs if they haven't already. Whether you're really rural or whether you're just kind of on the verge of in town, and some folks in towns may even be getting it. I know we were talking a little bit that not everybody has received one. So I'm happy to share just a few little blurbs of what it specifically says in
Yeah,
regards
since
to
you just
insurance.
got it this week. That's ironic. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a timely topic. So in a part of it, it tells you exactly what your property has been identified as. And then it says in bold, this designation will not impact your homeowner's insurance rate or ability to obtain coverage. It is against state law for insurance companies to use the statewide wildfire hazard map in decisions about rates or coverage. And so it's important to me to share that piece because as a homeowner myself, if I start to have issues with my insurance, my mind is automatically going to go back to this letter, whether it's true or not. But as a professional who's in insurance, it's important to me to have that blurb I just shared that says it cannot in fact affect your insurance, because that's that's the truth. That's what I'm telling my clients. That's what I as a homeowner am believing. We can't as an insurance company use this to affect your homeowner's insurance. However, I know I've said it a couple of times, companies are able to look at other factors and use any data and information that they legally can to impact rates. And so, from a professional standpoint, if you have concerns about your property, if you don't have an agent that you can have a really frank conversation with, and somebody who will say, "Hey, I got mine. It really sucks to be in a position of XYZ, or I understand your concern, even if it doesn't affect my house directly." You want someone who's going to be honest with you and can have that conversation. Um, if you don't have that person, I'm happy to talk with you. I make no promises that I can insure every house in Southern Oregon, but I'm happy to talk with you. I'm happy to find out what your concern is, what your location is, what your fears are, what your goals are. If something burns to your house, do you want to rebuild exactly what you had, or do you just want to have enough money to go move elsewhere?
You know,
Those are
that's a good point because during the Alameda fires, we discovered that a lot of people did not rebuild. That was
absolutely,
shocking. Yeah, they just
absolutely.
didn't have it in them.
And there's a handful of reasons, right? Like you said, maybe I just don't have it in me to build another house like I had. Maybe I'm older and maybe I've got kids, grown kids that I can go live with. Maybe I get a little mother-in-law suite with them and it kind of
Hmm.
helps everybody. Maybe my insurance, I really didn't have enough of it to actually be able
Hmm.
to rebuild. Those are the
Hmm.
conversations that as an agent, I want to be able to prevent or at least make sure you're aware of. It
Yep.
doesn't matter to me what you want to do with your house or your money in the long run. That's a personal decision. I just
Hmm.
make sure that you know what the options are, that we've had a very honest, straightforward conversation about it, and you have options. You're an adult. You can make these choices. I just want to give you the information.
And Megan's really great. Having somebody to talk to who's technical, that's what I like, is you have all the information and you're not emotional. It's like, here's your choices, here's the data. That's kind of what I'm all about, is here's the data. And
Ab-
then, like you said, we're all adults. We can make
ab-
our own decisions.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that you said that because emotions matter and feelings matter. And I can understand emotion and feeling, but some choices we have to look at really logically. And I've been doing this 14 years. I feel like I've got a pretty good base. If you need to make an emotional decision, I can understand it, but I'm going to give you enough knowledge that even an emotional decision can be made correctly.
Yep,
You
we don't want to
need
be
to be the
impulsive in these moments. Yeah. Yeah.
exact
And if you wait too long until there's an emergency, then it's highly emotional.
Exactly. And I think that's a lot of the fear around the fire map, to be honest, is what happens a year from now? Am I going to be put into a corner a year from now? It's valid. It's an absolute valid fear, but nobody really has that answer right now. So I would strongly urge all of our listeners to do as much as you can today to make sure that you've got the right coverage, you've got the right policy, you know that you're being protected. Be proactive. Be proactive about your property. Be proactive about um listening to the people who put out the map, and you know get proactive, get involved in doing research on what this means for you, but don't panic for a year from now because none of us have those answers. Do your own research so that you can make wise decisions, but don't panic. We don't know
Yeah.
what the future looks like.
And those of us who have lived in Oregon for a while know that this is what Oregon does. Sometimes they frequently will pass laws, sweeping laws, and not have any basis or facts. It's not a linear, orderly process in Oregon. Sometimes it's just knee-jerk reaction, and then we're left kind of scrambling years later for the facts and the process.
Absolutely. And, whether the fire map seems completely legitimate to you and it's a near and dear project to your heart, or whether you're someone on the exact opposite side who feels like it's probably going to be the demise of Oregon, the reality is we only know what we know today about it. And
Yeah.
so whether you're all for it or you're all against it doesn't really matter to me personally when it comes to your insurance, because all I can do is look at the facts of it. That's where I really strongly advise our listeners, go do your own research on it so that you feel confident in knowing as much about it as you possibly can. Take as much action today as you can to protect your property, to do the things that can impact it. Be as prepared as you can. Nobody has a crystal ball for a year from now, though.
So how helpful is it to have a lot of preventive insurance? I guess I don't know what to call it, but right now, there are carriers and companies like yourself, farmers, that will give you these extra riders for thus and such.
Oh,
And getting those in place right now so that if it changes later, because that's what we're all afraid of. We're afraid that this is kind of a bait and switch with the state of Oregon. And yeah, they're saying now that the fire map is not going to be used for insurance purposes. So then the other question is, well, why do you have it? Do other states have fire maps? Is this just to assess the firefighting effort in the future? Like, what is this about?
no, those are great questions. I don't have the answers to most of that right now, but I think we all share that same question of, so what does this mean for me? What does this mean for a year from now?
Yeah,
I,
where is it going?
where is it going?
That's what we're all worried about.
Absolutely. And I have the same concern personally. What does this actually mean for me? What does this mean for my clients? I just go back to, that's where all we can do is get educated and really look into it as much as we can. From the insurance aspect of it, if you have a great policy today, that's fantastic. If you have a policy where you could maybe add on a few extra endorsements, I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Um, there has to be some validity to, we've had a lot of fires. California has a lot of fires. I want to make sure that your house is as protected as possible. You don't need to be insurance poor, but make sure that your home is protected as possible, because we have had a lot of fires. Almeda was really, really close to a lot of us. It's not unheard of to have big fires here. Whether it substantiates this fire risk map or not is kind of off topic at that point, right? We have had fires here. A kitchen fire can happen. A water leak can happen. There's a lot of other things
That's true. Yeah.
right? There's a lot of other things that can cause damage to our homes. And so from the insurance standpoint, I want to make sure that you're as protected as you possibly can be, whether it's from wildfire or whether it's from another covered cause of loss. So if you are able to add other endorsements through your company, or if you're not and you want to talk with me and I might have those endorsements for you, I think it's worth looking into. Everybody has their own things that matter to them.
Yeah, it's
Everybody,
very personal.
it's very personal. Insurance is very personal. I have experience with multiple different companies, and I love the fact that I'm with a company now where I can have a personal conversation with my clients, because we can plug all of our information into an online company, and there's nothing wrong with some of the online companies, but you lose that personal conversation. You lose that ability for me to look at you and go, what really matters most to you? Do you have $25,000 in jewelry that you want to make sure that you cover? Or does that not matter at all? So that's where I come in. That's where I think it's important to have these really personal conversations with your agent, regardless if you ever get a fire map letter or not.
And Megan, how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk?
Couple ways. You can give me a call, 541-776-0673. You can also text us on that line. So 541-776-0673.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. We want to communicate however's easiest and best for you. You can shoot me an email, mmcpherson1 farmersagent.com, or stop by the office, 2821 Bullock Road in Medford. We're open. Lobby hours are 9 to 4.
That's awesome. Megan McPherson, Farmers Insurance, the McPherson Agency. Thank you so much. That was great. Great information.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Alice.
And don't forget to listen to this episode again with Megan McPherson tomorrow, 8 a.m. on the same radio station channel. Have a beautiful Southern Oregon weekend. Bye now.